Iorì Wase's podcast is brought to you by First Nations Fiber.
Have you ever been gaming or working online classes and your internet service constantly gets interrupted? First Nations Fiber is about to ensure that just won't happen again. Get ready for high speed at a new level. Click on fnfiber.com and sign up today. First Nations Fiber, empowering people through connectivity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Beading Table with your hosts, Deganuhyakwa Stand-Up and Leith Makiwa. We are taping here in sunny Ganawage, and we have a jam-packed episode for you today. We have a lot of questions that we have filtered from Instagram that correspond to our favorite things giveaway. If you check on our Instagram posts this week, you will see a picture of the items that will be in our giveaway, and you'll also have a chance to enter the giveaway there as well. So, Deganuhyakwa. How are you doing today?
Good. And you?
I'm doing excellent. Unfortunately, I have this little lingering
Yeah, so do I. So we're going to be doing that a lot this show.
This show. I'd like to ask you a question real quick. What are your thoughts about, and we're just getting like straight into the podcast right now. So I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts of people borrowing other people's beadwork for their special occasions? What do you think about that?
I am all for it. Yeah, I'm all for it. If people are willing to lend it and if the person that's borrowing is willing to take special care, it's a major piece that, sometimes people invest a lot of money into those kind of things. Or time if they've made them themselves. But yeah, no, if people are willing to, I've, shared some of my stuff with some of my friends, like some of my bigger pieces. And yeah, I have no problem with it. Sometimes it helps out a lot too, because not everybody has like hundreds, thousands of dollars sometimes to drop on stuff. So it does really help. And, for me, why not? Yeah. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm all for it. I think that, like you said, one, in terms of like financially, it might be a little bit more difficult or challenging for some people. Mm-hmm. But also I think like the wear, if you're only wearing it for one special day, then what is it doing just on those other days? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's nice to share good feelings with people and have that, or even like if you're giving it away or whatnot. And this is like basically straight from Facebook. There was a fellow artist who was, had some pieces, I believe there were moccasins that she was giving away to people who needed them. And I think that was like a great idea. If I had any moccasins that were any good condition, I probably would do the same. But
I don't have
exactly. But I think like too, in terms of like shirts or ribbon shirts or different ribbon skirts, I think that's a good idea too. Because sometimes people buy them for like a wedding and then they might not ever wear them or something. So like it'd be good to be able to hand them off to somebody else who might need them and might not necessarily have the funds or maybe even the time to go look and search. So
yeah. And even adding to that too, I'm like, we've talked about this before, but I'm like, when I create a piece, I want it living. I want it used. I want it, like that's just me. But, when you have a nice, beautiful piece sitting there like that, and then it just goes, like it's nice for it to be used and worn and shown. And
so maybe just jumping off of that in terms of like special occasions, we know like the big special occasion that's coming up for us in particular. Not for us personally, but for us as artists.
Actually, personally this year for me.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes. So it's graduation.
Yep.
So maybe you could just expand a little bit why it's personally
my
special
daughter,
time.
My daughter is graduating this year. So
from high school, elementary?
Elementary. So she's she's moving up to high school next year. Oh my God. Yeah. So it is a super crazy busy time from basically. For me in particular, with graduation and all that, with orders, my graduation season starts around September, October, if I'm on the ball. I usually only really get going like after Christmas, after like the craziness. But for the most part, I try to get ready at least in like October, start getting all the materials, start getting the color schemes, start talking with the clients and things like that. This year I had to work on my daughter's stuff and get her stuff prepped, which is done but not done. It's like minor little things that I still...
like my famous 10% left to do.
And it's just in there staring at me. But I also have another piece that I have to get started now. I'm on pretty much crunch time now. I have like a month and 2 weeks left to get it done. So that one is about, I would have to say that one is about 20% going right now.
Oh, that's better
Yeah.
than nothing.
Yeah.
That's better than last week, which was 0.
Exactly. So, and I'm not worried about it. Like everything's coming together. So it's amazing when that happens, when you're like, you get that flow and you start going and you can at least get going on it. So I'm not worried about this project. And then I have to still check in. I have one order that I believe I took for this year, but I haven't spoken to the girl yet. So I have to reach out and say, was it for this year or next year? It's not a big deal. It's moccasins that I can bust out in like 2 days. So, but yeah, grad season is a crazy time of year for bead workers, sewers. It's
and some of even some of the sewers I think were already booked and saying no more orders, maybe in January or something like that.
Even before I think,
January?
Yeah. I know. I think one, she closes her books, I think like September.
Oh,
yeah. So yeah, it's a crazy time. Like
that's a lot of creativity you got to have.
Yeah. I know you're working on pieces. So where are you at?
My graduation piece is beadwork is, I would say, maybe 75% done. In terms of construction, I still have a lot. Okay, maybe I have a lot, then more than, okay, so maybe I'm not, maybe I have 50%, I'm 50% done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the cuffs and the moccasin vamps are all done, and it looks like really good. Like I did a lot of work, but then there's a lot of behind the scenes work too. Like me and my tickle lining the moccasin and doing all kind of like fussy stuff afterwards. That's what takes a while. But I just started recently doing the yoke, and this time around I did all the flat work first, because that for me is like, we talked about it last month, and so it takes a while. So I did all that, all of it's done. So now I just got to crank out all the rays, which shouldn't take that long because it doesn't take me that much longer to do that. I mean, it doesn't take me long to do that. And then it's all of like the fussy finishing work I have to do.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I would say if I really had to put a number on it, I'm like 30%, like realistically 30% done.
On the way. Yeah.
On the way. So that's really good. And I said I was going to be done, I think mid-May, just so I could get out of the way and get it done. And I think they wanted to take pictures. So, they give the opportunity to see and make sure like it fits. I mean, I did a last fitting, but you never know, and you just want to make sure.
With all of that, so we have a lot of listeners that may particularly bead, but not take on orders like this or big orders. So what are some of your tips? Whatever, like some of the things what is your process when you're doing grad orders, like start to finish? Like, how does it roll? How does it go? Because people don't always understand the amount of work, the amount of time, money even that we have to put in, So what are some things that you would have to say to that?
Okay, so if it's just somebody off the street, right away I'd say, well, sorry, I don't have time. Because it has to be a very planned thing. And this particular order was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I would say, okay, so they ask me and I accept. And then usually they ask before the time. So then as it approaches like the actual September or October, I would start to meet with them or just get a general idea and start. Sorry, I shouldn't say I would meet with them first. First, I would start pulling things. And then also in this case, I pulled things. We agreed on what the colors were. I took measurements. And then I didn't put any design yet. I don't believe it was. And then I met again. And then I had design things in the works. And I have various designs, so it takes a while. So I shouldn't say it takes a while to actually do the designing. Sometimes it's really fast. In this instance, it was. So then I would go back to my sketchbook and start resketching if there was a drastic change in what I had thought I was going to do. And thankfully, in this case, she loved it. And that was good. Then I start really pulling colors again in terms of like what I think will go. And usually what happens is I will bead a large part of the item or the main color scheme of it, and then double check with the client to see if they like it.
Yep.
In this case, I did a whole flower and then checked in, and I was a little bit like, on the edge of my seat wondering, oh man, I should have showed her before I got so far.
Yeah.
But thankfully she liked it. And so I just continued, and that's what I did. So in this instance, I did the cuffs and the vamps. I did the vamps first, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to see how all the colors would play out together in a small thing rather than start on the yoke. Because for me, it's like a progression. It gets bigger and bigger. And then as I get to the yoke, there's more things on it than would be on necessarily the vamps. So I want to make sure I got a solid foundation first. And then after I finished the vamps and the cuffs, what I had to do is I had to resize the yoke. So I had to have another meeting with the client. And so I had another meeting with the client. Oh, I must say, I took a half deposit before I started the actual pulling of anything, I think it was. And I said, I didn't tell the client I would take half. I said, you should put a deposit if you wanted to. And the client said how much. And I was totally agreeable. It didn't really matter to me as long as like
there's something.
Yeah. And so then I had the refitting, did all that. Then I had to fix the design, how the yoke fit. And this is like my fussy thing, I guess, is how the yoke fit really didn't accentuate the features of the client. And so I had to change it a little bit so that it would be better, to be better, fit better. And so I did that, which meant I had to add to the design of the yoke. Because if you add or subtract, there's going to be more like white space.
Yeah. Your layout ends up changing up.
Yeah. And so I had to do a little bit of fussing around, and that was okay. It wasn't not a big deal. And then I started the beadwork, and and I had to like do all the prep in terms of like cutting out and basting and doing all those kind of things. And so that's where I am now.
What's like your favorite part of taking on orders like that?
My favorite part of that is the agreement from the client that they like what I first beaded. Like that first beaded flower, because it's all the anxiety, like it's all the anxiousness and the like on the edge of my seat. Like, oh my God, do they like where I'm going? Do they not like where I'm going?
Because it's kind of like that sets your tone, and you're kind of like, okay, we're there. Like once this is a go, then you can go. And if they don't, then it's back to the drawing board after that.
And sometimes when it's back to the drawing board, it may take maybe a day, maybe a month to even try to get back on it. Because once you're kind of like set in your mind about what your intention is, then you have to like completely erase it and start again. And sometimes that's more difficult than actually starting from the get-go.
Yeah, because it kills the vibe sometimes for it. So it's kind of like, and then you have to like you said, like you got to wash it away. And sometimes you have to get more inspiration. Sometimes that doesn't come that easy. Yeah. So I think in terms of that, like that's the pinnacle part where I know, okay, I'm on the right track. Yeah.
And then I can just like move forward.
Yeah.
And then as I do that, as I move forward and I'm like in the hype of everything, as soon as the cuffs are done, because I've now had two like main parts of the outfit done, then I'm like, I hate to say it, but I'm over it.
Yeah.
But I still have a whole another large piece to do. So that's the only downfall. And I think that's what it is. It's that you reach the pinnacle, like where you think, you reach like the
peak of it.
The peak, and where you know everything has come together and everything looks excellent. Then you have to like continue.
The creative excitement isn't there anymore because you've already reached it. You've already got the color set. And now it's like, now it's just going with emotions. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like what would be the part of like taking orders that you dislike the most?
The part I dislike is and it's only for a fleeting, like, I think it might be like less than a minute, but it's that moment when everything is completely done and I want it out of my house now. And then I realize I have to wait till I have a meet. That is the most disappointing part of it, is that as soon as it's done, I can't just chuck it. I need it gone. And that's what I mean. It's not even excited I don't even know if it's disappointed, but it's just like, just get this out of here.
Yeah.
And not because I don't like it. It's just because it doesn't belong to me and I want it out of my sight.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah. It's kind of like, because that to me, how it feels sometimes is like, I have sat here for months working on this thing. I have given birth to it. I have raised it. I want it out of here now.
Yeah.
It's like that ridiculous thought where it's like, okay, I'm done with it now. Like, I'm totally done. It has taken all of my energy, all of my creative like outlet, and just going through the motions after for however long, because sometimes it drags on longer because it's harder to get back to that piece or keep working on it when that excitement is gone. So yeah, I get it. It's just kind of like, right. It's even my daughter's stuff. I'm like, oh my God, like, and I love it. I'm excited, but I'm like, oh, like I just need this done with now.
And then when the client sees it, it's hard for me to muster up the excitement to say, yeah, it's so great and beautiful, because I've already gone through that emotion.
Yeah.
And not to say that I don't like it. It's just that I don't feel that
the excitement's gone. Yeah.
People must think I'm just like, oh yeah, just another thing. But That it is. It's just another thing I've done, and I'm on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think a lot of people feel that way. Like when they see, like, painters must feel the same way, and different people. Like as soon as it's sold and it's in somebody else's house, it's for somebody else to appreciate. Like I've seen it, I've lived it, kind of thing. So I guess that's how I feel.
Yep. I hear you.
So after your graduation, do you have anything else, like your graduation projects? Anything else planned?
Yes. So what do I have? Oh, I have 2 orders. I have one really long outstanding order.
Yes, I know that one.
Yeah. Which thankfully the client is like really, like laid back with it. But it is bought and paid for now. So like I have
it's on your shoulders.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Unfortunately, like there was no timeline on it.
Okay.
But it's for me it's dragging out too long. Like not on any, that's on me. Like I just haven't been able to get back to it. So that is my first and foremost. As soon as I'm done, that's like full speed ahead. And then I have this is another one that's outstanding, but and it sounds awful. And I don't mean it in that sense where it's like, oh, well, it's my friend, I put it on the side. But it's because it's one of my good friends. I wanted to do, she won a raffle.
Okay.
But I wanted to do more for it. And there was something that we had discussed way back before that I wasn't able to do for her and her husband. So it just kind of didn't work out. So to replace what that whole thing was, when she won the raffle, I had said, well, you know what, let me add to the raffle. Like normally it's like just moccasins with a leather back and whatever, So now I'm going to do her cuffs. The moccasins are all done. They're put together. The vamps are on. It's all beaded, everything. Okay. But now it needs the cuff. And I also added a medallion to the order or to the raffle winning, I guess. So I have to, that has to be completed now too. I don't know how you feel about doing moccasins, like the cuffs, but for me.
Is that your yuckiest item to bead? That's what somebody asked a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay, we'll talk about those later, but yeah.
Yeah. No, well, I have to say it's like, you know what? I used to only do beaded cuffs. I would do moccasins and then do the beaded cuffs all the time. So only recently, within the last year or 2, I started doing leather.
I know. I've seen it. It's the progression has gone like super, but it's fast. Well, I mean, for anybody out there, it's a faster way.
Yes.
To do it, and
because you do the vamps and you're like, I'm done. I just got to slap on a leather cuff and I'm done. Like just throw some beads on the edge.
I have to do a beaded cuff on my graduation order too. And I haven't even thought of it because for me, like if you're doing a raffle and you're doing a beaded cuff, you can't do anything really until you actually know the size of the foot.
Yeah, it all has to be sized and put together and everything. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. And that's where I kind of got deflated a little bit with it all.
Okay.
Because now I'm like, okay, that cuff, like not that I don't want to do it at all, but it's just to sit and actually put the time in and design it and all of that. Like,
because it's done pretty much.
It's done. So now it's like you feel like you're redoing like a whole new order type of thing. Like, so anyways, that's where I'm at with that one. So those are my 2. I do have another one that I unfortunately can't really, but.
Oh, you can't really talk about, yeah.
I can't talk about it, but I'm like giving a little hint or a little teaser. But yeah, I have another huge order that's due for the fall. Which I'm excited about, and I kind of started a little bit, but I just had to kind of at least get a start on it, and then I have to put it aside though until I'm done everything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a few months to finish that. So
that's good.
That's about it though, I think right now. Then I'm free. I'm free! Yeah. And
yes.
So let's jump into that. So you finally got your acceptance. Yay! Congratulations.
Thank you.
For Santa Fe.
Yes.
So what is your process? Like, what are you doing now to prepare for Santa Fe? Because I know you got a lot going on right now.
I got into the Santa Fe Indian Market. It's August 20th to 21st, and it's I think a jam-packed weekend it's going to be. Actually, probably a couple of days leading up to it. It'll be a lot of excitement going on. It's the centennial. So 100 years. That's pretty exciting. In terms of like what my process is, for me, because I am such a bad procrastinator, I don't do anything until I know for sure. But this time, because it was getting a little bit too close for my comfort in terms of like when we had normally found out, which was like, I guess maybe middle of March. So there was something that had happened So they only told us like, I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe, or a little bit less than that. I started to prep in terms of like started to cut out little things and kind of pulled some things here and there in terms of like colors and stuff like that. And I knew that because it was going to be the centennial that I should have more things. And because I talked to Grant Jonathan also got in, so you'll see him there at the Santa Fe Indian Market too. He said like to have a lot of things to sell with it, which would be in a wide range of like prices, right? So in terms of that, sometimes I usually do like one really big thing. Well, for me, it's like a really big thing in terms of like a big project, a costly project. And I'm not 100% sure if I'll be able to do that.
Yeah, in the
time frame. So I'm planning to like right now crank out as much as I can in terms of smaller things. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be cheaper things, but smaller items that don't take me as much time to do, but can really showcase like my style.
Yeah.
So yeah. So right now I wrote this list in the back of my notebook for like our podcast notebook, just like projects for 2020. And it actually is like the stuff that I'm doing. And I didn't even realize because I looked at this and did this in January. So I'm doing a purse. I have this beaded red panel. It's like 24 karat gold. I'm doing something with that. I'm not 100% sure what. I have kid moccasins and I have three pairs of baby moccasins prepped. I have, it says large kick-ass moccasins. So I'm doing that and it says nothing yet and I'm not there yet. And then this red panel I have, that's like I said, it was 24 karat gold. I think I'm making a purse maybe, and I have already started vamps to go along with it, kind of.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I've never really done that where I've done like a shoe and a handbag, I guess, like you would say. So I'm starting to do that, and that started in terms of like the cutout of it. So I'm really just trying to like prep those kind of things. I wanted to do some beaded cuffs too because that really went well the last time I was there in 2019, I think it was. So yeah, but in terms of like a big project, I don't really have anything right now.
And what do you consider like a big project? What is that?
Usually a big project would consist of like
Long
using
hours.
small antique beads. Like, so it's not necessarily a big project in terms of like the actual size of it, but in terms of the amount of time it would take and the intricacies of it, it's big. So
kind of like your vase,
kind of like my vase, that will still be for sale at the Santa Fe Indian Market with all its ribbons and everything from all the places it's been. But yeah, so like that I would consider a big project.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% sure if I'll be able to get anything of that scale for this time, but hopefully like for next time I will be able to, or for any time after that, you know. So yeah, so that's the only thing. But that project, like that vase, only started too when I found out I got into the market that 2019. So, I mean, the amount of time it's possible, but I don't want to go there with like one big thing.
Yeah.
So I want to go there with a variety of things so that more people can.
Like you have to weigh out how, like, not quality because they're all quality, but like quantity, quality type of, you know, like what are you bringing?
What am I bringing? And I guess I'm not going to bring things that didn't sell last time.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Like I'm only bringing things I know that were selling when I was there.
So that's another thing. So I'm always like interested in looking at those kind of aspects. So here at home, we have certain styles, we have certain colors, we have certain things that we're drawn to for our people. So when you go to a show, how do you prep that? Do you bring do you bring our style there, or do you kind of tend to do things to attract the market? So how do you, what do you do in that sense? Like color schemes, patterns, things like that. Does that play into it? You know?
Yes and no. For the big project, yes, that definitely does play in the sense that I don't necessarily know what the market would be here for like those small intricate beads and who would be the buyer. You know, like in terms of that, like I don't know unless somebody commissioned it, then that would be okay. So I don't necessarily, like in my everyday life, I don't use those small beads to do much stuff unless it's like maybe, can't remember what the last thing I did was. Oh, I remember it was a commission piece and I used like the antique beads and stuff like that. But I made a purse about 2019, I made a purse. And what I did is on one side, I did raised beadwork and the other side, I did the majority of flat beadwork. But I put in like, well, because I'm Hopi, I put in more of that hope. Like I didn't channel like the Southwest in terms of like for the market. I channeled like my own like interpretation of how like pottery is, because my families are potters, so I try to mimic that a little bit. So in that regard, I did, and I don't necessarily know if people would be attracted to that here. I mean, it is me, and I can do it, like, you know, in terms of like I can try to like not manipulate, but to draw inspiration from that like art craft, like that art. But when I bring things to the market, I bring things that I like. Like I only pick the colors that I guess that's one of the questions somebody asked, like, how do you pick inspiration colors and stuff like that? I just pick things that I want to bead, because if I don't, the colors that I want to bead with for things that I'm selling just randomly to anybody, because I really want to use things that I like. Like I don't want to be beading with stuff that I don't like.
Yeah, that's not your.
That's not my jam, really.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I can just have like it's carte blanche when I go to the market, because it's not a commission, so I can do things that I don't necessarily do, and not necessarily meaning that I wouldn't do them here, but I don't necessarily have the opportunity, because a lot of my work that I do here in the community is commissioned. So it's within a certain parameter. But when I go to the show, I'm making it just because I want to make it, right? So that's the only difference, really. Maybe one day I'll be able to have things just here to sell, but normally that's not the case.
Yeah.
Hopefully next year it will be, because I hopefully not taking orders, but I say that every time and I take orders anyway. And I think I said, yeah.
We all do.
Yeah. So in terms of that, like I don't try to necessarily bead for there, but I know I had picture frames that didn't sell. So I'm not going to take picture frames. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take the other items that I do, and that's what I'll take. So yeah. And I don't know why, but they were interested, so I'm just not going to waste my time with that.
Yeah, with certain things.
Yeah. So that's all.
It's interesting, like for listeners to hear who would eventually, or who have, or who are planning on like submitting, because I know a lot of people have like beautiful stuff that now like maybe they want to try to like submit them into shows and stuff like that. Like the only tip I have, don't wait till the last minute to do any damn applications.
Yeah, don't.
Because that's what happened to me. So 2019, I was applying for Santa Fe. And
you're applying to Santa Fe, you didn't have all your paperwork in order, right?
Yes. I didn't have anything ready. And so what ended up happening was I left it till the last minute. I didn't have the time to get the things that I needed, and which would have required weeks.
Not months.
Not months. Yeah. And I waited literally till like the last week that the application was due. So I was like, well, there goes my dream. And then we had a pandemic.
Yeah. So it kind of
and
worked
I still
on the
don't
end.
have those papers because we had a pandemic. So, eventually I'll try to get there. But there's different things showings that I want to do. Like there was like the Gananakwe one.
Yes.
I would love to do that. And I've had people inbox me like, hey, you could try out or like bring stuff or whatever. Unfortunately, because I'm constantly doing orders, I never have anything.
Yeah.
So that's another thing is that, you know what, like usually for shows, for competitions, things like that, you need pieces if you're going to be showing it or submitting those pieces, you need them to be done within the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Some are 3, but the ones that I've looked up are mostly 2. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're looking to do showings or whatever, it has to be a pretty recent piece. So if you make something beautiful, you love it, you want to show it, hang on to it for a little while.
Well, there's that part, but it's a twofold thing. Like one, I would say for the application process, you need a lot of visual you need pictures.
Yes.
Not a lot, I should say. You need very high quality pictures.
Yeah.
Of very specific things, depending on what kind of category you're getting into. And it doesn't matter if it's Santa Fe Indian Market, if it's any other ones
or whatever. Yeah.
Ganadagan or wherever it is, you need to have stills. So one thing is, regardless of what it is you make, try to get the best neutral, in the sense like not the outdoorsy photo, the best neutral photo, high quality that you can of your piece. And then if it has to go to somebody and you have to sell it, then that's fine. Yeah. But you still have the photo, because what it is they want to see, right? Like how your work is, how the quality of your work through the visuals. You are correct in the sense that if you want to have a competition piece, you need to have a piece that is made within a certain time.
Yep.
But you don't necessarily have to have the things that you're selling on your table to be within a certain time frame.
No, those can be
anything,
like
but it has to be yours, and it has to be within the category you are submitting. So I can't go there and sell pottery, and I'm in the beadwork category.
Yeah.
you can apply for different categories if you're a multimedia kind of artist and you do different things, and that's not a problem. But I would say like my best tip is 1, make sure that you have your visuals. Number 2, save some money for the application process, not necessarily for the application, but if you get in, because you have to pay to like go.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and
Your
you have to pay
tables
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty expensive.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So, but I would like encourage people to just apply. Like there's nothing there's nothing that you should be afraid about in terms of that. Like if you get in, if you don't get in, that's okay. You can always apply the next year. Like, you know, like you increase your quality. But I would like encourage a lot of people to go and to even like if they can go to just see what it's like. So they have like, I guess, a gauge in terms of like what other kind of artists might be within their category or stuff like that. Or just
even like collaborations, you have to think of like if you are going there and you want to show an outfit or if you want to like whatever, you have to really, so as you're doing a project too, you also have to keep in mind, you have to keep note of products you're using, even
your techniques.
That was one that I had realized not that I had anything that was a collaboration, but say if you wanted to do something on a cradle board, but you can't make the cradle board, you have to give those kind of things, like that props have to be there in the sense that you have to name that artist. So there's a lot of things to kind of think about. So if you are planning on ever, you know, applying to these shows, you really got to read the fine line and all of the requirements.
And sometimes collaborative artists have to have both been accepted to the market.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's another thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of
there's a lot of things to consider. But I mean, in terms of like the experience and what you can learn, even just about yourself, about how you interact with people you don't even know. Like here, like I can interact with people if I'm going to log in, different things, and I feel kind of comfortable. Sometimes interacting with people who are...
What do we call it? The schmoozing?
The schmoozing part, yeah. So it's not even about the people. It's really about the schmoozing.
The schmoozing.
The schmoozing part.
I think that's my hardest part. You know what? Like,
I would hate for somebody who knows me to see me talking schmoozing. I think they'd be like, you are just so full of crap. But I don't know.
Oh, I can't. Oh my God. So I'd have to practice my schmoozing because
You can't practice it because it's all a vibe. I'm telling you, it's all a vibe.
I hate small talk. I hate, do you hear me? I hate small talk. Like, so that's my biggest problem is that like, I don't know.
But you have to be your best seller unless you have a manager. And unfortunately, I'm too small scale that I don't have no manager to like, talk for me. I have to do it all myself. And I think the honesty is the best policy.
Yeah. Yeah. Always. Yeah.
And I think I've thrown in a little bit of that like stereotypical like...
Yeah. I'm like
I don't
so
want to say mysticism of being ungwa hua, but I think that's kind of what it is sometimes.
Okay.
Just a bit. Just like a tad like, you know, but nothing to be like extravagant. Like it's not like... I got it from a dream and like it's not that kind of thing.
Okay, so for me that's I can't and
you don't have to be like that.
No, yeah, and like I like if you know you have different clientele, you have different people coming through and all of that, and I can't like it's like, oh well, how did you know, I'm never gonna say like
but they're gonna ask.
The wind whispered it into my ear. Like I can't do crap like that. Like for me, like that, and that's like the schmoozing part. So I would have to learn how to like. I'm always friendly. I'm always like approachable and talk. You know, I'll talk to anyone, but it's like the small talk. And if I don't know, that's my hardest part. And then like trying to, I'm the worst at selling my own pieces because I'm like, I don't know, I did it and I just liked it. And that's it. Like I don't have a whole big backstory to most of my stuff. You know, it's just like, oh, well, I felt inspired, so I did it. That's it. You know, so it's like I would have to work on, I guess, that part of my
but
selling
you can tell
skills.
more about your story about yourself. Like people want to know like where you're from, like you know, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So like I had a pair of moccasins, and this is going to sound crazy, but it is the truth. I had a pair of moccasins, and I started them when I was I think it was in Phoenix. It was in Phoenix, and I had gone there with my husband, and we had this suite, and there was a balcony, and it was pink. And outside there was an orange tree. It just so happened to be an orange tree. Mm-hmm. And I had these moccasins, and it was like kind of like a cross between a light turquoise and a blue kind of look. And I beaded them, and I realized that the actual... I think there was pink, but there was also like a green that was coming off of this orange tree that I ended up beading basically what was outside my window. It was orange, like beads and different things, not orange, but more like a yellowy kind of like my famous yellow I like that ochre kind of color. And it was like this really nice, like I said, like kind of turquoise, and it was beautiful. And I called it Looking Out My Window, I think it was called.
Mm-hmm.
And so like somebody bought it and they're like, oh yeah, so like, why did you pick these colors and all this stuff? I said, because I was sitting in my little like a suite and I made this in the past 2 days and this is what I saw.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds so like, oh yeah, it's just like I got inspiration, but I did, like I got inspiration from that and it just kind of pulls. But then I think depending on your environment, like even like the seasons, right? Like you'll start to pull different things. So
even that, like naming stuff, like because I've had shows like for my paintings.
Yeah, you have to name things and make sure you sign everything you make.
Yes,
sign.
Yeah, but for my shows, I used to the art shows, the paintings, and all that I've had. They ask you to. You could just write Untitled, but then whatever. Yeah. But yeah, so you have to find names, and even that, like I just I struggle with that part just because I'm like, I don't know if it's not. I don't know. Anyways, I just got to figure that all out because I'm like, I feel like hokey pokey.
We have 1 year to get your SHIT together.
I got a channel. I have to channel. No. Yeah. So anyways.
Yeah. So I'm excited and hopefully some of my family's going. For sure my mother is going. Mm-hmm. We're going to be traveling. I'm not sure if we're traveling together, but we're going together. And hopefully some of my other family will be coming. The only thing is that, oh my God, you know how we talk about things like beadwork and our artistry sometimes take us away from different things, or we're like busy doing whatever and our kids want to play outside, but we got to bead or whatever. Like in my case, one of my sons is small. So the other day I had this great idea. I'm like, oh my God, I just saw Red Hot Chili Peppers are having a concert. I'm like, oh, I should take my 7-year-old. He would love it. Love it. So I went online. Wouldn't you know, Toronto, August 21st. I was like, geez. Yeah. So I can't take him. And then it's like, the tickets are pretty crazy. And then there was another one like Las Vegas or something like $63. Like, oh, too bad I can't, like just different things. I was just like, man. Yeah. But that was the closest one, I think, was Toronto. And I was just like, oh, and I had told him, I said, I wanted to take you to see Red Hot Chili Peppers. Of course, you have to wear like the earphones and everything. But I thought, oh, it'd be so fun just to.
You would have loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes those things take you away from that stuff. Like I remember, kind of in this topic, but like going to a lot of my son's baseball games and sitting there beading. Oh, yeah. Like because I had stuff, to get done. So same thing where it's like it does take over sometimes, like especially this time of the year to grad season, it's like you got deadlines and things.
I just realized something. Paddling provincials are usually that same time.
Oh no.
That's why I went last year because oh man, this is another thing. Anyway. What can you do, right?
Yeah. So what else do we have on our list? We have a few more things.
So we have some, I don't necessarily think they're going to be rapid fire questions. Okay. I think they're just going to be questions that will really generate some good conversation because there's a lot of questions. I believe there's like 24 questions. 24, if not more, questions that we got through Instagram. Like I said, corresponding to our favorite things. We said to, in order to encourage people to participate on the forum in terms of our Instagram page and also to help us generate content. Mm-hmm. We said that we would have a favorite things giveaway. And like I said earlier, we're going to post a picture of that on our Instagram page. And there'll be opportunity for other people to also enter it once they see the goods that maybe they want to enter that. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to just get right into it. Sound good?
Yep.
So I'm not going to say who actually
asked the question,
but I've like said nyawa to everybody who has reached out and sent questions. So everyone who asked a question should have got response nyawa, and then their name will be put onto the wheel. And we'll probably do that. I would say more towards like I think we'll actually announce the winner on our next podcast. Okay. So the podcast that will be airing in June. Oh my goodness, it's May.
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. The first one is, when a bead hits the ground, is it gone forever or do you go after it right away?
If I need that bead, I'm hunting for it. I will get on the floor, I will get my broom out, and I will sweep them up. But if I'm lazy, it stays. And then eventually I step on it or I find it, but depends.
Sounds good. And I usually say, I have a bead store. I'll just say that. It's so crazy. But I'm going to admit though, I'm not sure if it was the last order. I was doing something and I had to look for beads and I was like, I thought of myself and thought, why do you always say to yourself, I own a bead store, and now you look like an ass because now you have no beads that you need. Okay, so dudes who bead, are they out there? I said yes. I think yes, for sure.
Yes.
There are men who are beaders.
Yes, I won't say names just because I don't know how they feel about that. But I recently had a couple in one of my classes throughout the winter, and his work was amazing. And I don't know if he's ever done it. I think he's brand new, like brand new. And he did a yoke. He did a full yoke. It was beautiful. So yeah, there's definitely beaders out there, male beaders.
Yeah.
I don't think they're like out there as much as like, I don't mean that they're not there. I mean that they're not as.
I think in terms of like the number men versus women, I think there's a majority of women, but there are for sure different people who do raised beadwork, flat beadwork.
It's just that they're not as visible, I guess, in the sense that because they're not out there promoting or posting. Some are and some aren't. So there's probably a lot of like really low key male beaders that we don't even know about,
Or if you are out there and you like want us to showcase, stop by like the beading table on Instagram, and we could do that if you're out there. When picking bead colors, where do you turn for inspiration? So I kind of just said outside, just the vibes of the earth, I guess. That's the one thing. And I have some fallbacks. Like I love a real good green or a really good, I love a good green and a good white.
For me, inspiration can just come anywhere. Same thing. Could be outside, could be emotions, could be how I'm feeling. It could be, sometimes I'll be at the mall and I like somebody's outfit and I'll take a picture of it. Or Facebook, sometimes I get ads on like, there was one, it's like a baby dress. And I was like, oh, the colors are so nice. So I screenshotted it. So it's kind of everywhere and anywhere, whatever strikes me.
Which size needle and which thread do you use based on what you're beading on? So I would say for myself, if you're using a cardboard, use a size 11 needle if possible, and also a thread in either, you have to use B because D will be too thick.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If your needle head is very small, use a thinner thread because you're going to hear that like you're going to pull fight with it. And then it's either going to break or your needle head might break, but your thread will always be pulling on that one spot and it'll break at the needle head usually.
Yeah. And for me, I'm a 12 and a B all the way.
There's no more 12 needles at this shop too.
I know. Well,
I took the last one for our raffle.
Yeah, I have a few too at home, but
yeah,
I am a 12 and a B. Most for everything almost. Depends though, yeah. Sometimes maybe I'll go to the D thread. Well, when I have to, I will. But I'm kind of like, I'm kind of going back and forth now. So yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Because I just really started noticing because I changed my backing because I no longer use cardboard. The B thread with the 12 in the cardboard was working for me. But now I'm using softer backing. Your beads get a little loosey-goosey with
There's not enough girth on those beads. There's not enough girth for the size of the hole and the thread. You have to use D in order to make it
beef it up,
make it stiffer. It's so crazy, but that's the lingo of the beads.
Yes,
that's the bead lingo.
Yeah, so that's depending on what I'm using, I have to switch between B and D.
Yeah,
but I personally always stick with 12s.
12 needles. That's 12 needles. John James Sharps. Everybody sharp.
Yes.
Also, a follow-up question from the same person is, what size threads do you use for size 16 or smaller beads? I will use my thread. I use a size 0 or 00 for anything, sometimes like that for 16 and smaller. For sure, for like when I'm using 24, I have to use size 00 because that's the smallest one, I think. And then I usually use size 16 needles. So for those sometimes. Or size 13, which are 13 short sharps by John James, which are no longer in production, and I am not giving away in, not because they're hard to find. So I would say for small beads you need 0 or 00. And we're talking about NYMO here. I'm not necessarily sure about all the other kinds of threads out there, but if you're like partial to different kind of company, then I'm sure you'll be able to find something. You just Google like your brand versus NYMO, and then if you have a standard, then you can find out. The same thing with if you're using Toho or Miyuki Sea beads. You can find out there on the internet, there might be a chart that says there's colors that are similar to both if you can't find them, like either or. So that's good.
And that too, like I would have to say that our answers, like the thread wise and certain things, are generally towards seed beads. Like me and you both don't really use delicacy all the time, or you know what I mean? So my answers, I could say, are mainly for Miyuki Tohos. Like that's what I would be using all these things for.
And it's all our own opinions.
Yeah.
We're not no experts. We're experts in our own styles and what we do, but we're not experts in everybody else's stuff.
Yeah.
What's your favorite color palette? The beads I picked for the raffle are kind of my color palette. I love like the nice like beige and the green with the little hint of like a sharper green and some muted earth is my type.
Yeah,
even muddy
you're like
earth.
Deep earthy browns and reds and
that's
like
mine?
that's like your. For me, I'm more like
muted.
Pastel-y,
yes, you're pastel.
very muted.
Right now, you're in a pastel thing.
Yeah, I that's kind of where I go to most of the time. Yeah, I don't know. I like it. I don't know, blah. No,
no, it's not blah. That's just your palette.
Sometimes I feel like I gotta. Well, you know what? When I find colors that I feel, I guess, are like blah, like then I have to throw in a couple of like, let's jazz this up type of thing colors. So that's kind of where I go. That's usually my palette. I like what's it called, monochromatic type of deal too, like where it's like all blues but all million shades of blues. Yeah. They all have to be the same tone though. I am a psychopath.
I am not a psycho about that thing. I like to use all kinds of colors.
No, like for me,
monochromatic.
In monochromatic, yes, but I like tones to be similar, all the same tone. So it's like if you've ever looked at like, say even if you came into the shop and you looked at the board with all the beads and there's green, there are about 3 or 4 different tones of green. So we got like the yellows, you got the turquoisey greens, you have the blue greens, you have like the yellow greens. So for me, if I'm working with something, it either has to be all green, like yellow green, or it has to be all blue green, like, in different tones and shades though. So yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.
Next question. Do you ever bead with beads that you know might fade or change color over time? Some people like that.
Yeah, me, I don't care. You know what? At some point, everything is going to fade.
Everything fades away.
It all just fades away. So I don't know. No, I don't. To me, I don't really care about that. Honestly, I've never really paid close attention to the color dyes of beads. So I'm like, if I like it now, I'm putting it on. Like, and if it fades, it fades. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't know. I don't care about that.
I tend not to use colors that fade. But then I'm not very partial to colors that fade to begin with, like a lot of pink or purple. I pick different kind of shades. I don't think anyway, I've ever, but I'm not also intentional either in the sense that I'm not intentional.
Like avoiding them or
avoiding them. Like there's certain things I will avoid, like 1312.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that for sure will. And I know because I'm the one who reads the label that's dyed, and usually I write dyed on it on the package because people need to know.
Yeah.
Because the last thing I want is somebody come in saying it's already dyed, gone. It's no good. I want my back, and whatever. So, but if the person likes that, then use it. Yeah. And if you like it, and you make sure you inform the other people that it's gonna fade.
And that too, keep in mind. So when you are making something, let your clientele know that. Well, you don't really have to, but you know what? If you are making something, you should. But you also need to let them know that this may not be the best for direct sunlight. If you're going to be hanging it in your car. Yes. Within a few years, that thing is going to be all white, or it's going to be all clear. So,
or it might not be the beads; it might be the actual fibers. Like you shouldn't really hang anything in direct sunlight for beadwork if you're storing it, one thing. But if you want it for show, make sure you rotate it because if it's going to fade.
Yeah, even the velveteen, everything that'll fade. It's going to bleach it also. That's something to keep in mind.
Okay, so next one. When you take orders, do you prefer to come up with the design or do you take direction? I do both. But mainly I take direction because that's usually how custom is.
Yeah, I would rather not have any of it. But actually, I personally like minimal to begin with. Like if people have given me orders and it's like, okay, I like this color. I like blue and yellow. But I'm open to anything else, then that helps me. Minimal is better because then I find if I get influenced too much, it sometimes kills the vibe of it because it's not always mine in the sense that like my color palette or what, a lot of times too, I try to, if it's like totally out of my range, I take what they say, what they want, and then I try to figure out how to make it me though.
Where do you buy the lamps you use? Is it a special lamp or is it a special type? So we had mentioned last month Costco, there's Michael's, any of your like bulks, like even I think maybe Baron Grow or any of those things. And like, we're not sponsored by any of those people who we just mentioned, but it's like the Light and we're not sponsored by them. Also, maybe they want to sponsor us, Light, for all the beading needs of the beaders who have strained eyes. But yeah, so usually it's a Light or any bright light.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be that one, but that's the one I tend to use.
Yeah,
sometimes.
me too. It has different settings too. Mine has like a little disco lights on it too, even.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not into
like
that.
a little glowing thing where you can change the colors and blah blah blah. But yeah, the overhead arm of it though is like it's like a bright. Really,
yeah. Some of them have magnifying glasses on them too. There's all kinds.
Those are pretty cool. Like I think I'm gonna be investing into into that soon. Yeah, and these lights are not. Some can be expensive and some aren't. Like I think the one I got was maybe like on sale for $40 or 30, something like that. They range though, because some I've seen like 100 maybe. 80 to 100, 120. So yeah, they range like.
And oftentimes it's the same kind of light that they would use at a place where they would do nails.
Yeah.
So that kind of light, because you need to have precision lighting, right? So that's what kind of lamps we use. Next question: what's your advice to beginners who are looking to start beading?
Jump right in.
I'd say find a good teacher and have patience.
Have patience. Well, I just actually had a discussion with a lady that was coming in. She is a beginner. She just came in. She wanted to start. So for me, what I did, I recommended her a smaller project to start, mainly because I've had people take my classes where they're jumping into a yoke or they're doing a vase. And this is like some of their first time, And it's not to say that you can't learn how to bead on those things, but it's the aftermath now. So when you finish learning how to bead on these items,
the construction
is really crazy, where it's like even experienced beaders are like, ugh, like it's because
it can be off that little bit on the bottom or doesn't match up, and then you don't have the tricks to like make it fit together. It's just
and it's kind of like what we were saying, like don't jump the line in certain things, in the sense that, starting off small gives you all of that experience and understanding of how things are constructed, because beadwork is about beading, but also when you are creating things, the construction is a major part of all of it. So
I think a picture frame is for sure a good starter.
She came in and I had a medallion.
Yeah, that's good
so
too.
She did that. It was perfect. It was something easy for her to start with. The construction of it was easy, so she can get the understanding of it. So start off a little bit smaller, don't overwhelm yourself, because then you also get not instant, but you get quicker results with a smaller thing. Then you get to see, and you don't want to like spend hours and hours on something and you're like, and then you don't want to finish it because
that's why I start with vamps for a project.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's my advice.
Which size beads do you prefer for large projects such as yokes, cuffs, or moccasins? Anything. I don't prefer any kind of beads, in the sense that
size-wise, you mean?
Size-wise, like I will use any kind of beads.
Yeah. I am typically a 15 all the way for everything. I will use an 11 once in a while. I just like the look. Like I like how like it's more visible and it takes up a little bit more space on a yoke for the rope stitch and all that. But I won't use it for the flowers and all that. I use 15s. I'm 15s.
Okay. So what's your favorite local bead store and why? Well, I'm just saying traditions. Period. Next, how do you get your puckers so neat? And there's two questions about puckers. I think, I don't know. It's a lot of years, I guess. Pucker tips, how to make them nice. Make sure that there's a center point on your vamp, and then make sure there's an even amount of puckers on either side of the center point. That's one thing. Try to maintain the width of your puckers to be the same. When I do mine, when I make the pattern, I will only make puckers on half of the top of the pattern. So
like my lines.
Mhm.
So I'll have my center point and then I'll have where the vamp starts,
Yes.
that point. And then I fold
Oh,
the
yeah.
pattern in half so that
Yeah.
on the other side they're equal. So I just mark them,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. For me, and this is personal, it's like more my own particular, I like puckers a little bit bigger in a sense. Like I like them, I don't know what the word is. Like,
It probably wouldn't be as many as mine.
yeah, there's not as many. So there's less on it, but then they look bigger. But you have to learn how to sew them so that you don't have a big hole.
Yeah.
That's the trick. Like you have to learn how to really sew them up so that once you flip them, you're not seeing right through. There's different ways, different tricks, but sometimes less puckers gives more defined. You really
Yeah, you
see
really
them.
see them.
Yeah, and then more lines, more puckers. More dots makes smaller, more puckers.
And depending on what kind of leather you're using,
Yeah.
you'll get better puckers.
Yeah, for sure. If you're using like super flimsy, if it's thin,
You'll see more puckers. Which, like, I mean, it'll give you a different result. So you can't.
Yeah.
You have to know exactly what it is. You have to test it out.
yeah, you got to play around with your numbers.
Okay, another question. What has been your most challenging project and why?
So for me, my most challenging right now is not even started. It's floating in my head, and it has been on the back burner for about 3-4 years now. 3
Mhm.
years. It is my mother's outfit. So my mother wants me to make her, I guess, her leaving outfit.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, come on, Ma, like, come on. But as a beader, as an avid beader, I cannot allow my mother to leave this earth and not have something from me. So it has been on my mind for a long time, but it's bittersweet. Like I want her to have something beautiful. But who the hell wants to do that?
Yeah.
Who wants to sew those kind of things and make them? So that's probably the hardest one right now. That I have it though. It's all in my head. I know what's happening with it. I know what's going on it. I even did one of the moccasins, which I don't even like. So that's getting scrapped. It's sitting there and I only did one, but I don't like it. Not for her. And that was another thing. I've done 2 vamps already for her. And once they were done, they weren't good enough. So that's a hard thing too, where I'm trying to do her justice for everything that she's done and everything, That's a pretty hard one right now. I gave her conditions with it. I said, like, you have to wear it before. I said, I don't want, I don't want it to be just for that purpose. And I think it'll make it easier on me a little bit to make it so that I know that it's not.
It was lived in.
That it's lived in. So that was one. And a second one I will.
Okay.
It has the same thing, but I had a good friend whose mom had just passed away last year. And it was sudden. It was really sudden. So they weren't prepared. They didn't have anything. So I think within a day, like an evening and then into the day, I made her moccasins. I just, I'd volunteered my time and said, you know what, if this is what you need, like I will do it for you. So I did moccasins for her mom, And it was hard though. It's really hard to do those kind of things. It's heavy. It's sad. Those are things too that like I personally have pictures of it, but it has never seen the light of day to anybody else on social media or anything. Like, of course, at the funeral it was viewed, but those are private things, So that was a heavy one. That was really hard because I knew her, So there's a lot of emotions that are happening at that time, and you have to kind of put yourself in that space to make those things, So and within such a fast, short time, like it's crunch time. Yeah, you have to have it done, and you want to do them justice, within that short time. So that was one of the more difficult pieces that I had to do and will have to do.
Yeah,
that's gotta get going too.
Along the lines with yours, for sure, like the things that you make for those who have already passed on or who, that's kind of thing. Like those are challenging. But I think for me right now, the most challenging project is already designed, already thought out in a broad sense, and is waiting for me to do. And it's been 10 years or maybe in the making. And I'm like, what? Just do it, Leith. Just do it. Do it. It was supposed to be 2020. It was supposed to be the year to do it. And so much has happened in 2022. And there's something with the 2, 2, 2. It's something this year. So I had actually got it done in terms of like The design is all finished. So I'm hoping that this year will be a start, but I don't know yet. So that's my most challenging. And it's because it takes me like right out of my comfort zone. And so I don't know, but that's my biggest thing. But it's already designed, the whole thing. And I've been collecting beads for about 10 years. So I'm just waiting to like get it going. Another question was, what's the Santa Fe Indian market and how do you get into that side of the bead community? You just got to take the leap. But I think we talked a little bit about that already.
Yeah. Look it up.
And
there's applications on there. Read all the fine print, like we had said earlier.
And then ask, like, if anybody have any questions, and ask me, like, there was.
And even that too, like, if you reach out to an artist who have been there, you can also, because
you can actually email
you can call them. You can call them directly, because when I was going through all my stuff, there was always somebody available. So they were great. They were really helpful, and unfortunately, I just couldn't get past the application process. But they're there. They can help you.
And don't let it be intimidating.
Yeah.
Don't let it be so intimidating that you're not going to apply, because you'll probably get in.
Yeah.
Like you might be able to get in. So it'd be good. What's been the best thing about beading to you?
For me, it is my creative outlet. So it is my sanity, I guess. Sometimes it's insanity. It is my creative outlet. So art has always been for me that, it's kind of like that sad artist. It's like anytime you go through it, like songwriters, they sing about all their crap. Like I beat about all my crap. But yeah, I don't know.
That's your thing,
I guess. Wait, what the hell was the question?
What was the best thing about beading to you?
Oh yeah, it's my creative outlet. Money is great. That helps. It became my job, it really, for me, it became my saving grace when I was so done with my past job.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So it was my leap of faith, really, just to start somewhere fresh and new. So
awesome. For me, it's something that I can share with my mother. Because my mother was the first one to have Blue Sky Bead Studio and really brought a larger scale of beads and beadwork into my life, into a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
And for sure, it's about sharing it with her in that sense. Like we have that commonality, and we love the feel of beads and to touch beadwork and all that kind of stuff. And I think to be able to have that with her is really special, because that's where it came from. And my love for that came from her and her entrepreneurial kind of venture that she had. And so I'm glad we're able to share that together. We have very different styles, and I don't have a lot of patience. Even when she wants to help, and I'm sorry for that, but that's just how I am. But anyway, so
like something similar too. So here's my second answer, I guess. But so for me, also, it connected me back to my great grandmother, who I never met, who I never knew. For the longest time, I was so angry with this woman. It sounds so ridiculous, but there was a lot of family trauma in our past and whatever that I didn't, generation. Not directly. So anyways, and unfortunately, I think part of it, she may have been at the root of some of that. So I was angry for a lot of like the way I was behaving or the way I felt. I blamed this woman that I never knew until I started beading. And then my mother kind of connected me back with her, because she was the only beader on my mother's side.
Oh, okay.
Well, directly on my, my mother's maternal line. So just learning more about her kind of bridged it to help me forgive this woman, I guess. And it sounds ridiculous, but that's kind of my connection to this woman, because she was the beader. I have like a lot of her stuff. I have all of her beads now, so in a sense that, my story kind of relates with your, what you're saying. Sure.
Has the hubs sat on a needle yet? Okay, so I read this question to my husband on the way to work, dropping him off at work. And he said, yes, he sat on a chair. He probably stabbed himself on the floor with a needle. I used to bead in bed, and he actually laid on a needle. So my husband has been like injured by the needles. How about yours?
No, I can't say about the needles, but he's probably just more injured and frustrated every day when he walks in. The kitchen table is like a dump because there's crap all for it. And his famous last words are, you have a beading room. Like I do have an entire room dedicated to beading with a beautiful big giant desk and I take over the kitchen every day. So
Well, hey, that's how it goes, right?
yeah.
Would you ever get one of your designs as a tattoo?
Yeah. I have one right now.
Oh yeah.
I drew it. I have multiple people that I have a good friend who got a really big tattoo that I designed and drew, and it's semi beadwork designs, like where if you looked at it and redrew it, you could bead it type of thing. But yeah, I've drawn a lot actually for people like that and myself. Yes.
I was going to say, no, of course not. But yes. Yeah. Oh my God, yes. I have a tattoo of myself. I have a tattoo that I beaded almost 20 years ago, and my son has it on and I have it. So yeah, so I didn't think of it until just now. I was just reading it thinking, I know I don't. But then yeah, and I look at my arm and yeah, I do. How do you keep the love for beading going to not get bogged down by everything?
I think
I just keep beading and take a break when I have to.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to just stop when you have to. How do you keep? Yeah, no. Sometimes it's overwhelming and you just got to keep pushing or put it down for a little bit, but not for me. It's like, I can't put it down too long because then I just never get back to it.
What are your thoughts on trends? I guess following trends and also moccasins with welts. The question kind of evolved from like, how before people would bead and they would turn the moccasin inside out. And then now some people say like, well, they don't like how that looks anymore. And then they have this another way they do it. And I think what happens is that maybe it might be seen as a trend. I'm not 100% sure. I do both ways. I've learned how to bead with a welt, like from like, I don't know, whenever my bead group started, not my bead group, but the bead group I started with, they all used a welt and they did it that way. And we all did it the inside out way. And then sometimes I think over time, people didn't like how it felt inside.
Yeah, on your feet, on your toes.
But I hammer mine out, so I don't have that. Yeah. So I still do it both ways. It doesn't really matter to me. But in terms of like trends, in terms of beadwork, I don't think the only trend I might follow is maybe the color of the year. Like there's like colors of the year, like a big company, I can't remember what they're called, but they put out like the trend colors. And sometimes I like to pick a color from that. But in terms of like what the beadwork looks like, I don't think I'm trendy. I don't know about trends myself.
I don't even know if like, I don't know like trends, like, cause I look at beadwork and if you look at like 1900s, was there a trend going on there? Because everyone's beadwork looked the same. It was all the same.
I think it was the access to the
what I mean? Yeah. And the patterns though, in the sense like of what they were beading. Yeah. So the only thing that I could say now, like maybe trendy, but I don't know. I don't know if you can really say trendy. I look at it like now, if you look at it, everyone's got the same floral styles, but is that trendy or not? Yeah. Like I don't know. I don't think so. It's just an era of.
I think you just have to bead what you like. And if that's what you like, then do it.
Yeah.
And not worry about anybody else and all that kind of stuff. I think for me anyway, I think like.
And I think it's the learning curve and what's accessible. Because this is still something that it's not new, obviously. And it's not, there have been people doing this for hundreds, thousands of years. But now it's like, right now there's more accessibility within the community in the sense that it's more in your face a little bit more. So people are learning from like that. Like I have probably taught close to, I want to say 500 people.
Oh my goodness, that's wild.
Yeah. In the
here and virtually.
Yes, here and virtually. So that's throughout the Confederacy.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is nuts. Anyways, so those people, those 500 plus people that I've probably taught within the last 4 or 5 years are learning from me or have learned from me. So of course, until they adapt and like and do their own style, their stuff may look like mine for a while, because I taught them or I gave them my patterns or so yeah, I don't know. It evolves eventually. And
yeah, I know. Yeah. Have you ever redone a beading pattern for a different client, or is every piece original?
For a client, no. Normally, unless it's requested and unless the piece that they are requesting was not for somebody else.
No, that's what she says. Have you ever redone a beading pattern for a different client?
No, but say if I've done something and it was just me that has done it.
Yeah. If it was in an order.
Yeah, if what they
Yeah.
wanted me to duplicate wasn't an order, then I might be open to it. But yeah, orders they're new and different
Yeah.
all the time.
I think for me, in terms of like patterns, in terms of the type of flower, they might be similar. Like I'm not just, if I make a pointy flower on somebody's, I'm not going to not make a pointy flower on somebody else's.
Yeah, there's like certain
Like that
technicalities
things
there.
I'll do. And you know what I always wanted to do? I always wanted to not take a photo. I wanted to print out all my pictures and I want to see what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
My stuff, because maybe I did like copy and copy myself and I don't even notice. Like I was just thinking about that the other day. I'm like, hey, this kind of looks familiar, but I think that just might be my style.
Yeah.
You know, but I would like to one day, like, you know how they have like a portfolio book? I want to have like a real portfolio book, not for show, but just for myself, just to see like what I've done over the years. I think it'd be interesting. When you take on grad orders or anything big, do you give them an estimated price in the beginning or only price once it's done and hope they can afford it?
Oh my God.
Laughy face.
No. So that is a big no. So what you have to do, no to the laughy face, no to that part. You cannot hope for the best with certain projects. You need to get that all ironed out first and foremost. So I always give a price and a cost. That's a lot of the time. So that's like, unless you have like deep pockets, then like most people will ask right up front, like, how much is this costing me, you know? So, well, even if you are like well off, everyone wants to know a price, you know? So yeah, don't leave that to chance.
I've always give a cost. There was one instance where I didn't give a cost. The person still bought it, but they didn't realize and I didn't realize, like we didn't talk about it. So that was a big learning for myself. So I always do, like I always try to break it down.
Yeah.
And I always try to break it down before I actually meet with the client. I kind of get like, you know, like you get in terms of like on the phone or on the text, like what it is they want. Sometimes I say a big number because I want them to know it's a big undertaking. It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be that much money, but if you're looking for everything to be fully beaded, it's going to be what it's going to be. So don't be afraid.
You have to be confident when you're pricing.
But also, if you want the order, you need it, then say what it is you want. Like if it's like, say you only want $500, then just say it. Like, you know, like if that's all that you want, then that's all you want. That's not a big deal. Yeah. But I think you should be like upfront and tell them what it's cost. I've only had one piece that I've ever sold that I had no price for. They said, this is what I want. And I said, okay. And then I made it. And then after I sent the text, I crossed my fingers, like, please say it's okay. And it was okay.
Yeah.
I knew the person probably would not take it. I knew the person was going to take it. But there was that a bit of me that said, oh no, but I had to just be like, nope, this is what it's going to cost.
This is what it is.
Yeah. But I've never, other than that, I've always had a cost for something.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. It's always upfront.
Yes. Last two questions. What is your favorite item to bead? I think moccasin vamps, but not putting the moccasin together.
Yeah.
They're small and put a lot of stuff on them. Moccasin vamps. I think the vamps are mine.
Yeah, moccasin. Honestly, I enjoy doing just the bead. No, I don't know.
I like the beadwork and the design part. I don't want to do the construction, but I'll do it.
Yeah, because for me, it's like everything. Like I like to bead everything. I'll bead everything. Putting together certain things, no thanks. Like certain things I don't like doing.
Yeah.
But I enjoy beading everything, really.
What is your yuckiest item to bead?
Oh my God. Okay, so this sounds so ridiculous, but picture frames and purses. I hate them. Picture frames and purses. I hate the construction.
But it says to bead.
To bead.
But I think it's the same. It must be the same thing because it
the yuckiest thing to bead.
Yeah, it would probably be the same thing.
A purse though, really. I hate making beading. I like doing the front panel. I just hate, I don't know. I know,
you know what? That's what it is. Because I have this panel too that now I'm wondering like what I'm going to do. And people have been saying like make a purse. And I'm like, yeah, good. But then I don't want to make a flap over because I don't want it to flap over the beadwork. And then like, because I'm trying to look at like high quality luxury purses. And they sometimes have that gusset on the side and they have this fancy like gold chain or something, whatever, however it is. Unfortunately, that's not who I am in terms of like, one, I don't necessarily have the expertise to be like soldering metal and doing all kinds of stuff. And I don't, you know, that kind of stuff. But I'm not so versed in the construction of handbags that it would take a while to like iron out all the kinks. And I don't know if I have the time, but I still want to do some, like, so
Yeah.
like I would love to take a class. Like there's so many classes I want to take. I want to take like an embroidery, like haute couture embroidery. I think I could do that. I think I could do like learn how to make handbags and different things like that and bring all of my things that I like and put it on there. But I don't have the time.
Yes.
Maybe 2023, 2024 will be my year. But then I'll be like almost 50. Oh my God.
So I think we can flip these questions too quickly.
Yes.
Also, okay, so one thing that I don't like beading is not necessarily the item, but I don't like beading animals. I don't like creating animals. So if somebody says, hey, can you like bead me a bear on this? No, I hate it. So I don't like doing animals. What I do like doing, if it's not same thing, not the construction or whatever, a piece, I'm florals. I love florals. I love the vines. Like ever since I was young, like even when I started drawing and all that, that was always what I used to draw was like the little curlies and the little vines and the leaves and flowers. That's my deal. I enjoy doing those.
And that's what raised beadwork is.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I think it is anyway. Like it's a lot of that.
Yeah, it's a lot of the natural world.
I love to do lines. I hate to do line. I love line work. I love it. I love white line work. I love it. But I hate it. But I love it. I love when you like I made my wedding outfit and I beaded my skirt and you put your hand over that flat work that's just like white old beads and you just think, yes. And the weight to it is just so heavy and it just like has I love it. I'm closing my eyes and I'm just I love it. I love how it feels. And I love looking at the pattern go for like a meter. Like that is like wild. But when you're in it, you're like, oh my God, this is going to take 100 years.
Never going to end. Yeah.
It's so worth it. Yeah. I love it. Classic. And that is that for our questions from Instagram. Do you have anything else to add, Marguerite? Oh, yes. Did everybody know that that they go to Yakwa's name is Margaret? I called her Marguerite, but yes, her name is Margaret Stand-Up. Yeah. Margaret. Actually, it's they go to Yakwa Stand-Up.
Yeah.
They go to Yakwa Margaret Stand-Up.
Yeah. Most people only call, like, people who have known me all my life, like my family, they all call me Degor Yakwa. So it was only until I went to high school, my teachers couldn't say my name. So then I became Margaret again, which I was like, Whatever, yeah. Which is my great-grandmother's name.
Okay, so we're going to hold this for the next podcast, but we're going to give you like a prelude to what is going on. It says, are people entitled to an explanation as to why you say no to their order?
So this stemmed from me, and I think it's better that we wait because I still probably have to calm the heck down. So sometimes beaders will receive... As
she gets into it, audience.
I will. I'll just give you a prelude, I guess, a little one. So yeah, sometimes we go through frustrating times where people they don't respect boundaries. Sometimes people are mean, like just straight out mean asking. It's not about asking, it's about when the artist can't commit to something. Sometimes people get mean. So that's where that stemmed from, because it seemed like, and I hope I'm not offending anyone here because it's not directly at anybody. But yeah, just within the last, I want to say a few weeks, like I've received a lot of inboxes and nobody write out mean, but some like a little bit catty, feeling. Okay. So yeah, and it just really, really pisses you off. So that's where that stems from. And I've seen actually a few on Facebook. So I don't know if it's just time of year or what, but that we also were going into ordering and how long should people? Yeah, how long? Like asking for orders in short notice during a short notice and that kind of things. And I think that's one thing is that you have to remember that if you're an artist posting on social media, one, it's because you're showcasing what it is that you like to do. And some people will see that and think, oh my God, I love it, which is great. But you might not be posting it to generate more people to ask you to do orders. But that's what people will maybe tend to assume. Not tend to assume, but will be inspired and want to work with you. So when you're posting, be prepared for an influx of people to be interested in your work. Two, I think a lot of people might be talking about this because a lot of people are posting things that they're doing for graduation or special times. So people are seeing it more often. So just be like aware of that if you're posting on social media, that people will probably reach out if they like your stuff. And so to be prepared for that and to maybe like kind of have like a go-to like statement saying, no, I'm not taking orders right now. Yeah, that's the best way so that you don't get emotional about it because sometimes it builds up. Like if you're placing an order, you may feel like, okay, well, I'm one person asking this artist. That one person doesn't realize that within that day, sometimes they just got 6 inboxes, you know? So it does get daunting sometimes. And it does, for me, it's like if somebody says they are not taking orders, be respectful and do not push past that boundary. Because some people will be like, well,
no is no.
Yes, because the whole famous thing, well, you know, it can't hurt to ask. Sometimes it does. Sometimes that artist is like fed up because you don't know if the last person that just asked was being an asshole to them, you know, and sometimes, unfortunately, that's the case. So that's the reality of, you know, the career path of this and dealing, you know, with all of it. So, yeah, so we'll get more into that, I guess, next time around.
It's for June's.
Wow.
Podcast. We'll talk about that. We'll probably be asked for more questions because maybe with our giveaway, people will be able to give us some more content for that. So, yeah, I think that's a good wrap up to our May podcast. Now, everybody, for listening to the Beading Table. Again, check out our Instagram page for our favorite things giveaway. And we hope everyone has a good day, good evening, and a good time until June.
Yay.
Now, for listening.
The views and opinions of the guests expressed in this podcast do not reflect those of Redone and its employees.